Today, our group will be presenting on conflict resolution and negotiation skills. I will be talking about what is negotiation and conflict, as well as why conflict resolution and negotiation skills are important. Kenan will be covering causes of conflict, as well as sharing with us a method that we can use when resolving conflict. Jialing will be going through the negotiation skills that we can use. Dawson will be telling us the applications of the skills that we have learned, as well as wrapping up the presentation. So without further ado, let us begin. Negotiation. We negotiate every day frequently. We negotiate at home with our parents when we want more allowance. We negotiate in school with our teachers when we want to extend our deadlines. We negotiate online with online sellers when we want to bargain for a better deal. So what exactly is negotiation? Negotiation is a process where two different parties with different goals and different needs work to find a mutually acceptable solution to an issue. Each negotiating situation is different. Each situation is influenced by each party's skills, attitudes, and style. Understanding the situation is important as it allows us to better manage our negotiation. This will increase the chance of us finding a solution that benefits all the parties involved. For instance, in China, their cost of product is low, hence they are more willing to give discounts to attract more customers. So when I was over there, I would always try to bargain for the lowest price possible. They are happy because they get to make a profit. We are happy because we get the discount. So this shows that understanding the situation is important when doing negotiation. But understanding the situation is not enough for us to be a good negotiator. Why do we want to be a good negotiator? Because a good negotiator will be able to maximize values while minimizing costs and still find a solution that is acceptable by all the different parties. And we need the negotiation skills in order to do this. Of course, negotiation is not a zero-sum game. Compromises have to be made. Some will compromise more, while others less. If the different parties do not compromise, there will not be any progress, and they will be caught in a deadlock. And this may lead to conflict. Conflict occurs when two or more parties do not yet have an agreement over a course of action. Today, I'll be talking more about conflicts within a team. Because a team has different members, each members will have their own individual values, perspective, and personality. In this kind of situation, in this kind of environment, conflicts can arise easily. So what happens when these conflicts arise? If we do not handle these conflicts well, it will affect the team's morale, lowers productivity, and more conflicts may occur later on. However, if we manage to resolve these conflicts well, it will promote constructive discussion, prevents antagonism and dislikes amongst the various team members. A lack of understanding between the different individuals are often what causes conflicts. So when we understand that, we should always try to resolve conflict in an environment where we try to understand one another. And this will lead to us having more creative problem solving and more understanding of each other. Where conflicts are resolved quickly and painlessly, mutual trust will flourish. Now, I'd like to pass my time over to Kenan, who will be talking about more causes of conflicts, as well as sharing with us a method that we can use when resolving conflicts. Kenan, please.
Right. Okay, thank you, Yunghao, for highlighting us the nature of conflicts and the importance of handling conflicts properly. Indeed, conflict is an inevitable part of our work, and I'm sure that we have all seen situations where different people with different goals and needs clash. And I'm sure that we have all experienced the intense emotions involved when conflicts happen. Now, in the next few minutes of time, we are going to dive deeper into the subject of conflicts and explore the different causes, some of the causes that cause conflicts, and as well as a way to resolve conflicts properly without involving negative emotions within a team. Now, the first cause of conflict we are going to talk about is conflicting styles. Now we know that everybody works differently according to his own needs and personality. For example, some people like to do things some people just love the thrill of getting things done in the last minute, while the rest of us wish things to get done as fast, as early as possible. However, when different working styles clashes, conflicts can often happen. Next, conflicting perception. All of us see the world through the lens. We have our own lens, and difference in perception can cause conflicts, particularly when one person knows something that the others doesn't know, but he does not know that you don't know this, right? So when different individuals see different things and knows about different things, have different knowledge, conflicts can often happen. Next, conflicting goals. Different people may have different goals and objectives, different things they want to achieve in life. For instance, some of us may want to get a 5.0 GPA, while the others might just happy with the pass. Right? When individuals aim for different goals, conflicts can often occur. Next, conflicting pressure. Every one of us might have different level of pressure. For example, some of us might have many urgent assignments due, while the rest of us does not. Those of us who have urgent deadlines might want, let's say, a meeting to be delayed in a later date because they want to complete the assignment, while those who does not have assignments might want the meeting to be conducted as early as possible. Right? When different people have different pressures, different concerns, and conflicts can happen. Next, conflicting personal values. We believe in different things. For instance, some of us believe in doing everything as perfect as possible, while the rest of us might believe in the notion of just being good enough. When different people have different personal values, conflicts can happen. Before I move on, let's do a quick review of what we have just covered. We have talked about different causes of conflicts. Conflict can be caused by conflicting style, conflicting perceptions, conflicting goals, conflicting pressure, and conflicting personal values. The next question is, how do we properly handle conflicts in such a way that relationships in the team will not be compromised? To do this, please allow me to introduce you a simple and easy to use framework that I have been using it personally for a while. And this technique is called a POS framework. What does POS mean? You will find out later. Right? So the first step in the POS framework is to pause. So this is a P. Now you know what's a P. In this step, when conflicts happen, we often get excited. We become too quick to make decisions, to say things, to make judgments, to defend our views. And often we forgot to be aware of the things we say, our facial expression, our emotions, our tone, our body language. And when we do that in this kind of situation, actually in any kind of situation, when this happens, the best thing to do is to step away from the problem temporarily, so that to pause and place the issue aside and go back to it later. By temporarily holding off the issue, we can separate our problems from the emotion, so that later when we come back, we can discuss the issue without damaging relationship and actually solve the problems rather than making things worse by saying things that we might regret later or say things that are illogical without clear thinking thought process. And secondly, by taking temporarily, holding off the problem, stepping away from the problem, we can grow the capacity to view problems from different perspectives. Because as time goes, after some while, we will gain some new insights to look at the problem differently. And next, by temporarily holding off the problem, the time we gain will help us to understand the pressure other team members might have faced. We might face their personal, we might talk to them about their personal problem, and we could understand the difficulties they face in life or the different goals, the things that they want to achieve. However, simply holding off the problem does not automatically solve the conflict, right? But what it can do is to help us to establish a healthy mindset before we can analyze, address the issue, the conflicting issue with an open heart, open and understanding heart. From there, we could move on to the second step, which is by asking the question, what is the objective of this particular discussion about what is the objective the product is trying to achieve, what is the objective of the project. And we could relate the objective with the issue that we are currently having conflict with. So if the issue is not important to the conflict, to the objective issue is not important to the objective, if the final decision matters later to the outcome of the overall goal. And the best thing we can do here is then by saying the magic words. You are right. So by saying you are right, we are giving other people power. We are making our team members feel powerful to make them to establish a mutual better relationship, so that the next time when different opinions exist, it can be addressed better. Now, what happens when the issue having conflict is important to the objective? Then what we can do is to go back and research and study about the problem, to find out more about it, to find out the root of the problem, analyze it, and then come back later to discuss the problem openly with your team members. Okay. Now, the question is, if conflict can be prevented in the first place, we do not need the QS framework, which stands for the pause, objective, ask objective, and study the problem framework at all. So now let me introduce our negotiation expert Jia Ling to talk to you more about negotiation skills which can prevent conflict from happening in the first place.
Thank you, Pam. Now, to really understand and excel at negotiation, we need to delve deeper into the intricacies of this concept. Now, a good negotiator will aim to maximize the value of his or her solution, as mentioned by Yong Hao in the first part of the presentation. Now, what makes a good negotiator? Dale Carnegie, a famous American author, once said, "When dealing with people, let us remember that we're not dealing with creatures of logic, but rather we're dealing with creatures bristled with prejudice and motivated by pride and vanity." This line stands out especially in the field of negotiation, simply because it reflects the nature of people and society at large, and thus which forms the crux of negotiation and the need for it. Now, in the next few slides, I will introduce two interesting ways that one can actually learn to negotiate. The first one will be using logic, ironically. The framework here essentially will be to know the problem, formulate a plan, and execute it, and then review the consequences that are possible from this plan. As for the next strategy, it will be through brainstorming. This brainstorming strategy is especially relevant for group-based negotiation, especially because in our presentation today, we're covering group-based negotiations. Now, these are the four main characteristics that a group members should display when negotiating. The first one will be expressiveness. Group members should be able to throw out their ideas as and when no matter how silly they think the ideas are. Naturally, they should. Secondly, members should also be non-evaluative of other group members' opinions and ideas, for it is important that we throw all our prejudices to the back of their minds. Thirdly, quantity matters, even though there's a saying that goes, quality and not quantity. This because in negotiation, we aim to find a good solution. So the more ideas that one has, the higher the chances of getting a good solution itself. Last but not least, group members should be able to build upon the solutions. That is to say, to modify and extend upon the solution as much as possible. Now you might think, what kind of styles do I have as a negotiator? These are the 5 most common negotiation styles that people may have. The first would be accommodating negotiation style. This kind of people would normally value relationships much more than just striking that deal simply. This kind of negotiation style would be good for recurring relationships, but not so much for one-off negotiation styles such as for business deals. Secondly, you have avoiding. Now this kind of people might dislike negotiation, so they will just aim to seek a very quick solution after the negotiation. Thirdly, we have collaborating. This should be the most recommended negotiation style for most people, as such negotiators will aim to seek creative solutions and seek to find the best interests of both parties at heart. Fourth, we have competing. Competing negotiation styles applies to people who may be business people or who are used to facing strong competition. Now this kind of negotiation style would be good for one-off business deals and not so much for trying to build relationships with other people. Lastly, we have the compromising negotiation style, where both parties aim to seek fair and equal deals, but normally concessions may be missed out. Concessions may be sought, and then you might miss out on underlying problems that may surface in the future. Now what happens when everything else fails? This is where BATNA comes in, which stands for Best Alternative to Negotiated Agreement. It is a term coined by Roger Fisher and William Beery in their best-selling book on negotiation. It is a sort of a backup plan, or a trump card, when you find yourself in a potentially disadvantaged situation. First of all, you need to consider the cost of the plan, feasibility of the choices that you're making, the impact of the plan, and last but not least, the consequences that might occur upon making the plan. Now, after saying all this, most people would want to find themselves in a second situation, where everything is agreeable. But most of us end up getting stuck in the first situation, trying to move on to the second one. Now this is where the final ingredient in negotiation comes in. One needs to be assertive and not passive or aggressive. Assertive people are normally self-assured and confident of themselves. And this is really important in every situation where you find yourself negotiating. So to summarize, in order to excel in negotiation, you need to know your strategies well, which I mentioned earlier on in my slide. Channel appropriate negotiation styles depending on the situations and the parties involved. Have a good BATNA at hand, and finally, assert, and assert again. I'll pass on my time to Dawson, who will summarize the entire presentation and apply the skills that we learned.
Thank you, Charlie. Handling conflict in ways that increase stress can be detrimental to our health. Poor conflict management can lead to the increase of the stress hormone, cortisol, which our group has covered 2 weeks ago in a TED Talk done by Amy Cardy. So this current presentation also aims to give suggestions on how to mitigate such problems. So far, we have learned about conflict resolution skills and negotiation skills. But how do we combine these two closely related skills together? Firstly, communicate throughout the negotiation process. Negotiation is a process that we should follow throughout. At every junction, we should listen and ask questions. So we can convey our emotions and information. So in the end, we can have a win-win negotiation. Secondly, we should receive criticisms positively. In conflicts, criticisms might seem absurd. It is true that it might seem because we are in a conflict. However, criticisms represent a feedback from the other party. So we should take it in more positively and integrate with our line of thought so that we can grow with the added information. Lastly, express negative thoughts and feelings in a healthy and positive manner. So, since we are humans, and humans elicit emotions, So it's very normal for us to be angry, especially in conflicts. However, some things should be said and some things should not be said. When we are angry, sometimes we do not filter what we say, and we might hurt the other party. We do not want to do that, especially so if they are our friends, but we are in a conflict. As what the picture says, we should train our mind to see the good in every situation. As a conclusion, our team has talked about negotiation skills and conflict resolution skills. These skills can be applied everywhere. For example, when we see a bag that we fancy on an online forum, but the price is not to our fancy, what will we all do? Personally, I will try to haggle for a better price using the skills that I have learned from this presentation. Regardless if the seller reduces his or her price or not, I believe what I have said and learned and applied has impacted the thought process of the seller. Since such skills can be used everywhere and in everyday life, I believe that we should train it as a valuable life skill. With that, I thank you all for your time, and I'll open the floor to questions.
Yeah, I've got a question. So, to what extent should you consider the position of others prior to the negotiation, as opposed to considering it while negotiating?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yeah, so the question is, to what extent would you consider the position and issues of the other party prior to the negotiation, as opposed to considering it while negotiating?
I think the very first step before the negotiation is to prepare for the situation. So you should actually, what you should do is actually getting the position and the interest of other parties first, and then comparing it to yours, so that you will know how to actually present your own argument in the actual negotiation. Without knowing other parties' interest at hand, you'll be basically entering the negotiation without knowing anything. So I think that should be necessary.
But is that always possible?
I guess not always, especially for example if you're meeting a stranger for the first time and you have to enter a negotiation, that would not be possible, but as much as possible, that should be.
Do we have any other questions?
So throughout your whole slide, what I felt was that it felt like there was a lot of points about conflict avoidance and conflict resolution, because there were points like pausing or simply suspending any sort of criticism or judgment, right? And there was a fail-safe that Jiang described in best alternative to negotiated agreement. So those are great, but I was thinking, do you have any sort of active ways to resolve the conflict? Because pausing or simply suspending your criticism doesn't always necessarily resolve the underlying conflict.
Yes, of course. Just now I've mentioned that, of course, you just stepping away from the problem temporarily does not automatically solve the conflict. The conflict is still there. However, it gives us a healthy mindset to deal with the conflicts. As long as when we are aware of that we are having a conflict, we are emotional, we immediately step away from the issue temporarily, and then come back later to tackle it.
But is there any strategies to actively actually try to resolve the conflict? Like maybe understanding the other person's viewpoint or something?
Well, recently I read a story. This story is about this old man. He has 17 camels and he was dying. So he decided to pass on the 17 camels to his 3 sons. So he decided to give the eldest half of the camels. The second son 1/3 of the camels, and the third son 1/9 of the camels. So after he died, the sons have a problem. They couldn't split 17 by dividing into 2, dividing by 3, dividing by 9. So what do? Over here they have a conflict, right? Do you agree? Right? They have a conflict, so they couldn't solve it. So they went to find a wise old lady. The wise old lady told them, give me a few moments while I think about it. So after a while, the wise old lady went there and he told them, well look, I'm not sure if I'm wise or not, but I have an extra camel, so I'm going to give it to you. After receiving the extra camel, the 3 sons are able to split the camels. The first son will get 9 camels, the second son will get 6, and the youngest will get 2, 17 in total. The extra camel, they return it to the wise old lady. So maybe when you are in a conflict and if you fail to understand one another, you can always seek a mediator to come over and try to help you guys in this conflict. Because a passerby will always have a clearer picture as they do not have any interest in that conflict. Yes. So that could be what you can do.
Sorry. You mentioned that when dealing with conflicts, we should always pause first. Then after that we seek the objective. Then after that we go and study the POS. So what if the conflict is time critical? Like you don't have the privilege of time to go and assess the conflict. You have to make it on the spot. So will you still pause, or is there another way you can address this?
That is a very sharp question. Thank you for the question. Actually, we can do the same thing here. You are in the middle of meeting completely. You are in the middle of meeting. You need to address the problem immediately. What you can do is that you pause a while, pretend that you are thinking, or you are really thinking about the problem. While you are thinking, you ask this question: what is the objective that we are trying to achieve here in this discussion? Quickly answer this question and see if it is important. You tell the person that, well, this issue is really important. I think that it is better for us to discuss this seriously. Next time, put out the issue first, put on the next meeting to discuss seriously. If it is not important, if the issue is not so important to the objective of the project, the meeting, well, you can just say you are right. It doesn't matter, right? Because it is not so important. So it can be applied. Does it answer your question?
What if you have to make it on the spot?
Have to make it on the spot.
The decision on the spot when there's a conflict.
This is a good question.
I think this depends on what kind of outcome you wish to, you kind of preconceive in your head. For example, if you already have this outcome that you will kind of lose, then you will have to adopt kind of a compromising negotiation style where you try to give it more or less, because normally there's only 2 main outcomes. It's either you get the argument, it's 3. One is that you win the argument or you lose to it, or both parties are happy. But in this case, there are 3. So for the first one is that you know that you lose, so you try to use the avoiding or competing. Second one is the win, that you want to win, so you use the competing negotiation style. You try to be very aggressive. You try to be more strong in your argument. The last one would be try to be collaborative. You try to seek the peace in the behind part.
Thank you.
Of the 5 negotiating styles, is there any that you would say is better than the others, or are they just there so that we can apply them in different situations?
For saying which one is the best, when I describe the styles, when I was researching the styles, I would say that collaborative might seem to be the best, most ideal situation. But after reflecting on it, I realized that there's no one that's ideal for every situation, as described by Wen Xi just now. For example, if you know that you have some of the outcome in your head, then you'll try to apply one of the 5, or maybe even combine 2 of the styles together. So if you want to ask about, you're asking about for every situation, which style do you use? Like for accommodating, it would be for relationships. If you want to have a long-term business deal with this person, having like accommodating style might be better because you won't be so You won't go so head on with the person, so you can use that one. Then for avoiding is if you really want to just stop really kind of arguing with the person, then you just avoid. Then for collaborative would be if you want to really get a really good solution out of the problem, then you try to collaborate and put the heads together for